Hello everyone, this is Nab Raj Poudel, an MPhil Scholar at Nepal Open University, Nepal. Today I'm going to make a presentation on the essay on Linguistic Aspects of Translation, which was written by Roman Jakobson. This video presentation is prepared as an assignment for the second semester course entitled Translation Studies. In this presentation, I will briefly introduce Roman Jakobson. Then I will talk about types of translation according to Jakobson, and also some of the linguistic considerations to be taken in the works of translation. Roman Jakobson was born in 11th October 1896 in Moscow, Russia. He died in 1982 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, United States at the age of 85. He is considered to be the pioneer of structural linguistics. He is a true formalist and a literary theorist. He is among the founders of the Prague Circle and one of the most influential intellectuals of the 20th century. He has remarkable contributions in the field of linguistics and literary criticism. The concerned essay of this presentation was published in 1959. This essay primarily deals with types of translation and some linguistic aspects of it, along with cultural and creative aspects. Jakobson states that the word gets its meaning through these linguistic verbal signs associated with it. This relationship between the verbal sign and meaning is that of signifier and signified. If the verbal sign is excluded, the meaning of the word cannot be made. To have a mental concept of any new word, other verbal signs are to be utilized. We use other verbal signs to describe any new concept. Opposing Bertrand Russell, Jakobson opines that no direct observation of the object is necessary to know the concept of such word. For example, we have a mental image of a UFO, even if we haven't seen them in front of us. There can be numerous such cases. Heaven, hell, justice, etc. are such concepts which we have, but we don't have any physical aspect attached to it. Therefore, meaning of any linguistic sign constitutes the work of translation because we transpose new meaning from totally different signs. We translate the meanings from one grammar to another. We replace one sign with another sign or signs. This phenomenon will be discussed later as well. So, linguistic verbal signs give each other meanings. They interplay with each other and interact with each other. They deploy meaning from several verbal signs and produce a new one. Translation is also a process of creating new meaning, according to Jakobson. According to Jakobson, there are three ways of translating a verbal sign. First one is intralingual translation, second one is interlingual translation, and the third one is intersemiotic translation. Let's discuss them in detail. The first type of translation, intralingual translation, takes place within the same language. A verbal sign, for example, a word belonging to a particular language is replaced by another sign, maybe a word belonging to the same language. Using synonyms and similar verbal signs to describe the original word, as Jakobson believes, one can either use another more or less synonymous word or resort to a circumlocution, means telling something in a different way, in an indirect way. For example, in the given sentences, describe and depict almost give the same meaning. Likewise, celibate and bound not to marry give similar meanings as well. Thus, if we reword in such ways, we are dealing with intralingual translation. Intralingual translation makes use of synonyms, restructuring of the sentence, paraphrasing, summarizing, etc. to say the same thing differently. It is also called rewording as we make use of different alternative words or signs. Jakobson points out that intralingual translation often doesn't bring complete equivalence, but it is most of the time the work of approximation only. This might be considered by as many as not real translation. The second type of translation is interlingual translation. This refers to the interpretation of verbal signs by means of other verbal signs of another language. For example, translating from English to Nepali, this translation requires a source language, often referred as SL, and a target language, often referred as TL. It is the process transcending of a linguistic barrier. That is to say, it tries to bridge the gap between two different language systems. Therefore, this is called your translation proper. This is the real translation. However, it should be noted that there is no full equivalence between two codes units. Translation from one language into another substitutes messages, not for separate code units, but for entire messages in some other languages. This type of translation involves two equivalent messages but in two different codes. The third type of translation is intersemiotic translation. Here, the focus shifts from medium to message. Intersemiotic translation refers to the translation of messages from verbal signs to non-verbal sign system. For example, verbal art into music, dance, cinema, or painting. Intersemiotic translation is also called transmutation, as the medium is completely changed. Instead of focusing on the words, the stress is given on the overall message that needs to be conveyed. Thus, the translator, instead of paying attention to the verbal signs, concentrates more on the information that is to be delivered. Jakobson uses the term mutual translatability as an examination of two languages when we compare them linguistically. He opines that translating from one language to another explores the similarities and differences between two languages, mainly in terms of grammar. Jakobson focuses on these grammatical aspects of the languages which make one language different from another language. For example, different aspects of number system, gender system, available tenses, size of vocabulary, etc. determine the grammatical nature of any language. For instance, Sanskrit grammar has a dual number system, but English or Nepali grammar lack this feature. Regarding the question of untranslatability, Jakobson points out that the practice and theory of translation is bound with intricacies and nuances. The deficiency in the vocabulary, grammar, tense, number, etc. makes translation a difficult enterprise. Poetic translation is particularly difficult as only its creative transposition is possible. That is to say, only meaning making may be possible. We may have to sacrifice other linguistic effects and aspects. Jakobson writes that maintaining the full artistic sense of the source text is almost impossible. It's a great challenge for the translators to produce a target text, giving all the artistic features of the source text. Various prosodic features and devices like rhyme, rhythm, meter, alliteration, assonance, music utilized in the poetry are almost impossible to translate as such. Different metrical patterns are to be sacrificed because of the peculiar nature of each language. For example, heroic couplets written in iambic pentameter in English language would be really challenging to be reproduced or translated with equal grace in any other languages. In spite of some linguistic deficiencies, translation can be made using loan words, neologism, or semantic shifts or circumlocutions. You can find some way out to deliver the meaning. When equivalent words are not found in the language, there are some other way around that might help get the meaning delivered. Jakobson also draws our attention to the hindrance in translation, which is caused by the cultural differences between source culture and target culture. Cultural words are difficult to translate as they require context to grasp the full meaning. Incorporating social components in translation is important and risky as well because they are more related to experience than expression. Therefore, a translator should acquaint himself with the linguistic skills along with literary and cultural aspects of both source and target language. It is not to be expected to receive similar effect from the translated version, as the original text, but combining all these aspects will help translators to create a more plausible work of translation. Jakobson opines that it is almost impossible to create the same translated text as the original one. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for watching. See you again soon. Bye for now.